Welcome to Cyclops is Waiting for Me, an X-Men animated recap podcast where we are diving into Wolverine and the X-Men for our first time with episode 3, Hindsight, part 3. And I missed fixing the first time out of the script. We're going to keep that in there. I'm JC. Now that we're doing these like every other week, and now technically we don't have to record for like a month in between these episodes, Rod, we're going to get really bad at the intros, I feel like.
Yeah, well, and they'll have a lot of news to talk about, though.
Hopefully. Yeah. But yeah, I'm JC, the John Carl, TheJohnCarle on basically all social media. And I'll kick it over to Rod, who recently spoke on a panel on behalf of both his own podcast and our podcast.
Yeah, I was just at Digital LA's podcasting panel at Bespoke on Fairfax, which I learned I almost missed because for some reason I had in my head was in Burbank. It's only like 15 minutes away from me, but the Melrose area is across town. So luckily my phone is smarter than me and it was like, you should leave now. I was like, for what? But really nice space. We had a fun panel. Basically it was 3 professionals and me. and me being up there like, I don't know what I'm doing, but good luck. But a lot of the, to anyone that was there, like a lot of the questions were for the X-Men podcast. After the fact, I kind of the thing I wish you were there for was there was a couple people that came up afterwards like, let me tell you about my favorite Cyclops moments from the comics.
Really?
Like, cool. We were making fun of Cyclops.
You're also like, I've never read any of those.
Yeah. So I was like, was this before Slim? And you were like, that is not in the context at all whatsoever I'm talking about. But I guess it was a nice conversation. They got to show me some panels of their favorite comics and stuff, and it was fun to see. Hopefully, all you guys start your podcast. And and one of the other panelists was Tamara from the Does It Fly podcast that we've mentioned on here a few times. On the panel, I said, "Yeah, you come up a lot on our podcast." She's like, "Oh," it's like, "Yeah." I always have this question, and I was like, "Oh, we should ask Tamara that." And John's always like, "She won't want to answer that," and Tamara was like, "Thank you, John."
Did she really?
Yeah.
That's great. I literally just right before we started recording, I reacted to her posting the picture on her Instagram story with you in it. So that is the most perfect timing.
So Cyclops is Waiting for Me is our now bi-weekly podcast series where we're going back and watching every single X-Men animated episode we can find. The podcast started with the original 1992 X-Men the animated series, building up to the release of X-Men 97. Along the way, we've completed X-Men Evolution, launched our companion interview show, The Xavier Files, and since season 2 of X-Men 97 is not even in the cards yet for 2025 or for all we know, 2026, we're dedicating this year
Damn, Rod.
to Wolverine and the X-Men. I should say that because there's a lot of animation coming out of Disney right now. I don't know, have you started Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man yet?
I did. So as of day of recording, it came out one day prior.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the first 2 episodes of it.
I think it's a lot of fun. I know the animation.
I don't love the style, but I do like the story.
The animation style is not everyone's cup of tea. I kind of dig it because I like the 60s vibe. Mm-hmm. But you and I think, I can't remember, there's a producer for one of the other podcasts I watch. They were like, yeah, they said the exact same thing you said. Like, I like the story, but not the art style.
The more the episode went by, the less noticeable it was. Mm-hmm. But it kind of felt like going to a 3D movie about like a decade ago where I'm going to hit you over the head with the visuals of this art style in the first 5 minutes to show you how cool our animation style is. That was what it felt like to me.
It's also a tough comparison to the Spider-Verse movies because it kind of, it's not the same, but it's kind of parallel, well, super stylized.
No.
I will say the thing that wasn't my cup of tea was all the 3D shots because that kind of separated from the 60s vibe, but I'm interested in seeing where it's going. We might be getting mutants, and they're heavily hinting at it.
The characters that they've revealed so far, we don't have a mutant yet, so...
Yeah. It's just that we're this, like, world where, like, oh, man, it's, like, almost there, because the first episode, we get that portal above the high school. I won't go further in case anybody wants to watch it. Also, the weirdest release schedule ever. 2 episodes, 3 episodes, 3 episodes, and 2 episodes. 4 weeks in a row.
That is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a lot of animation coming out of Disney.
Some quick reminders. We're a recap show about a series that came out and finished over 15 years ago. There are going to be spoilers. And if you don't want to spoil for you, pause the podcast, watch the episode, come back. Maybe use the link in the description to watch it on Amazon if you don't have Disney Plus, because then we get a kickback from our affiliate program. That 40 cents would be amazingly helpful for us to,
as long as you're not using honey. I don't know if anybody's followed that scandal. Don't use honey.
Do not use honey.
If you're using affiliate links.
Yeah. We are not currently, nor will we probably ever be sponsored or affiliated with Marvel Animation, Disney, Disney Plus, or Hulu in any way, shape, or form.
Or honey.
We definitely won't be affiliated with honey.
Anyway, don't forget to follow us on social media at Cyclops IWFM Pod on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Blue Sky, and Facebook. Also, at the time of you listening to this, 4 days prior, you will notice that about 4 weeks worth of content got uploaded all at once to all those platforms. Because I caught up
wonder
today.
why. Rod also just uploaded today the Revenge of Pinball tournament from Golden Apple's 45th anniversary, and that was a month and a half old footage after I think I just gave you enough shit for it that you were like, you raced through it all today.
I was trying to figure out where I had the footage downloaded. I meant to do it right at the beginning of January because December is usually slow for me. But this January 2025 has been the longest year ever. I can't believe, as of we're recording this, it's still January, and
it's 47 weeks long.
Yeah, I cannot believe how long this January is. I've never felt time stand this slow before. So much has happened. Also, the last time you heard us, we were joking about well, if TikTok's still around, it has come and gone and come back. So by the time you listen to this, who knows what's happening to any of these platforms? Yeah.
And then the unexpected consequence of TikTok going away was also owned by ByteDance, Marvel Snap, which we lost U.S. access to Marvel Snap for a handful of days. And then they found a new publisher. It's back on the app stores, and we all got rewarded I think it's the equivalent of $300 of in-game rewards and currency and shit like that.
Oh, nice. Oh, since it's with a new publisher, you can do transactions in it now.
So the problem was you couldn't access the servers to play, and then when it got put back on, it was still off the app store. So, and there were a few people who deleted the game because they thought it was going away forever because nobody has fucking 3 days of patience.
Yeah.
So they couldn't update the game and people couldn't reinstall it. So about a week after, we got our a care package effectively of just tons of stuff. I got a Shadow King variant. That was the X-Men related variant that I got from it. So
because as of right now, TikTok and all the other ByteDance apps are not in the app stores.
Right.
But also within TikTok, you can't buy currency to give gifts and stuff, because it's kind of a similar thing of why you can't necessarily buy cannabis with credit cards and stuff. With bank accounts and things, because it's a federally legal thing.
I don't smoke, so.
Oh yeah, so so in the TikTok. So I don't know about the other TikTokers, my group of friends. We're not sure we're getting paid for our TikTok content this month because we don't know if PayPal's going to participate if they're comfortable with the ban that's still taking. Anyway, social media is wild.
But now, on to the show. Today we are talking about Season 1, Episode 3, titled Hindsight, Part 3. It aired on January 30th, because I wrote it twice in the fucking script, of 2009. It's literally January 30th of 2025 as we're recording it too. This episode sits at a 7.9 star rating on IMDb, highest ranked episode thus far for us. So.
So far, I was gonna say
so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense because this is the finale of the intro. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. So we get a quick previously on, and it's flashbacks that they've used this flashback in every single previously on, and they do in next week's as well. Charles getting his migraine and then the world blowing up is just we want to remind you that this happened. Yeah. Then you see some stuff with Senator Kelly, and it's just more of the same shit. And then there's the rogue recruitment as well. So,
and we don't see her for a while. That's interesting.
Yeah, love that they started out with a more difficult kind of shot like that. And like, cause you and I have like touched on it. You've been the one to point it out more sometimes, like when a shot is more budget from an animation perspective. This was shown in POV of somebody walking into the Institute, and I wasn't totally sure who it was until the reveal happens in a few seconds, but I did like pick up on the subtle cues of like the guys that were working construction were kind of eye fucking the person.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Oh.
it's probably Emma.
I didn't put that together until you just said it.
Oh,
I had a question. I was like, who's walking through? Okay, that makes so much more sense now.
Yeah, they were definitely eye fucking Emma, and because I got to watch the episode a few days ago and then do a rewatch right before the recording, like you pick up on it so much more on like how horny those construction workers were.
She is showing a lot of the girls.
It's worth bringing this up. You see a lot of cleavage in this show. Like Domino had the boob window. Just the way like certain characters are drawn, like even in the next episode, Storm is stacked.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
more power to all of them.
There was a shot of Emma, and I think it was like a shot of her even like sitting down, where there was emphasis on how her ass was drawn. So
I was gonna say, I think when Logan sees her, they show his face and her butt. That's the shot.
Yeah, like as she's like leaning, like it's like they were not subtle with going for like a more mature tone for the character designs in this show. Yep. Inside the mansion, you see Warren has been paying for everything, and I love the interaction with Warren and Logan, where it's like, how come you're not happy? You should be happy right now. It's like very like sugar daddy vibes for a second.
It's interesting that Warren says his dad still thinks it's a private like institute or college that has nothing to do with mutants.
A regular prep school.
Yeah, and it's like, how unaware are, because X-Men are known in this universe. So I don't know. I haven't quite put that part together yet, but
and I think that the Avengers are also known in this universe, because I was going through one of the wikis, and I think like maybe it's Earth's Mightiest, and forgive us if I'm wrong on that one, like to anybody who's like a hardcore Avengers animation fan. They mentioned that the episode with Africa specifically is featured in the or there's something with Africa in Earth's Mightiest or whatever it is, or it's not United We Stand. It's got to be Earth's Mightiest, but so it's a shared universe with known superheroes is the vibe I get from that. But yeah, then he's basically like, you know what? Don't tell my dad that, because he will pull all the money if we rub it in his face kind of scenario. We do get the reveal of Emma at the door, and I thought it was interesting. Warren doesn't know who it is, but Wolverine does.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't pick up on that, but he's interested.
Well, I mean, okay, he's as horny as those construction workers. Yeah. Come on. And she's like, well, I decided I'm going to join the X-Men, and Wolverine's like a hard no.
Yeah, and to his credit, that's like awfully presumptuous of her, based on the history that we hear about.
I mean, yeah. At that point, it's kind of just like, what is the Emma of this world? Because in the animated series, obviously, she's still Hellfire Club up until the events of Genosha. So in the comics, at this point, you had already had Generation X had happened. She had the Massachusetts Academy with the Hellions, and Joss Whedon's Astonishing X-Men had come out, so she had actually been fully a member of the team by this time.
Okay, that was another question I was going to have later on, is if the Massachusetts Academy was something other than Hellfire. But
yes, yeah, she had her own school. She's like, well, do you think I'm dumb enough to come here empty-handed? I know how to find Charles, and that's where we get the cut to the intro.
So I guess I didn't realize there were so many plot points revolving around Charles being missing. Because to me, X-Men 97, that was a fairly new concept. But I guess it was
there was the story in the comics that we talked about, and I don't know a ton of the details on it, where he left to go be with Lilandra, and that's where he comes back and he has the, the walking suit and that fucking ugly ass helmet that made its way into 97.
Yeah.
But him being missing doesn't tend to be a common story. It's sometimes it's like he's dead, but not like missing.
Yeah. This takes a interesting twist though, of him being missing. I've said this from the beginning. Like, I like the mystery of the show.
Yeah. So you get the conversation that you started alluding to around the Massachusetts Academy, and I love kind of it sticks to the mystery of it because it is vague. It's like, well, some of your people were bullies, and it's like, well, were they bullies or were they full-fledged like evil mutant members? Like, it's did they go too far, or was it like just kind of kids from the wrong side of the tracks kind of vibe, Yeah.
And she kind of alluded to that they were like the victims of the anti-mutant I don't know I don't know if Friends of Humanity are in this universe, but something like that.
Right. Some sort of like bigoted attack against them and stuff like that.
That's why the school closed, was because she lost her students, and I think that was also vague too. Is like, they died or they left or both.
I got left vibes. I feel like she would have been, knowing Emma, more defensive if they had died.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like there is an aspect of her of like, she is kind of that like motherly figure, and if like you fuck with her babies, like she's gonna fucking go for the throat. She makes a point of saying that even though she built bullies, she built the school for the right reason. And I want to know more about this Emma's like her reasoning, her background, and stuff like that.
Yeah, so what is the right reason? Is she going to be kind of like that? Magneto's in this show, but is she going to be more like Magneto in here? Or she's like the ones that we're gonna work the offense.
And then it's like, well, she decided to go alone. She realized she missed being a part of a team, which is interesting because there at the school, she was probably more seen as a leader rather than a member of the team too. So is she alluding to like a further past, like the Hellfire Club or something to that extent? Then she points out that Wolverine and her do need each other, and that's where you start finding out it's like, well, yeah, she needs access to Cerebro to find Chuck, and Wolverine doesn't believe that is out of the goodness of her heart that she's trying to find Xavier. So.
Because it's that thing where like the one person can use like the death ray can access it. Like, what are you going to use that for?
I think the only reason why it wasn't like as intriguing to me of her needing Cerebro is because she's in the intro to the show. Oh yeah, because from that intro that means she becomes a member of the team. So if she wasn't in that intro, then it would be like, oh, is she also pulling like a double agent thing like Rogue did and things like that? Like the intro, like it impacts like how I'm watching the show now, because we talked about this previously. Rod and I can't watch a show like normal people because we live in Los Angeles. So. Yeah.
I like how she behaves how we always comment that psychics should behave in this universe. So like when everybody's trying to play dumb, she like looks at Wolverine, she's like, I know it's almost repaired. And she leaves her car. She's like, call me when it's done. And then as she's like leaving, Bobby's like kind of, he's a teenager, I guess, still. He's an 18-year-old. He's an 18-year-old who's seeing a very attractive woman. And he opens the door for her, and it was a kid. He's like, she can read your mind, dumbass. Yeah. I was great. Like, oh wow. I love the relationship of Kitty and Bobby in this show, especially because at one point they were like a couple and stuff like that. So not specifically in this show, but just they're hitting what that awkwardness could be like and stuff. Wolverine and Beast are going back and forth, and it's kind of the only way that they have a shot of finding Xavier and Jean. And then Wolverine's like, all right, well, time to go get this fixed. And then I don't like this version of Forge. I'm just going to call it straight out. I do not like Forge as the bumbling idiot comic relief. I like him here, but not because he's Forge. I know people like that are like repair guys and makers and stuff.
Yeah.
Also, he kind of gave me like a very young Lin-Manuel Miranda kind of energy, you know, like if this were live action, I think he would play him. He kind of looked like him a little bit. But that is interesting because like at first when Wolverine enters the danger room, you almost think that something's been sabotaged because the whole danger room's going after him.
Right.
But it's just Forge underneath, like literally under the hood, just like fucking around with a bunch of wires.
Well, at first, like obviously in hindsight, you could tell it's the danger room, and Forge even calls it out like that. But it's like, did Wolverine know he was actually going into the danger room, or was he just like walking down a hallway? And Forge, being mad scientist guy that he is, just happened to make that the danger room, you know? Like, Wolverine was not ready to be in a danger room scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I took it as like he just assumed everything was under construction, so it wasn't operational yet.
Right. Yep. So Wolverine gets in there, and then I love the frustration from Forge, because it's like, dude, like, I was on Cerebro, you took me off Cerebro, and then I worked on the jet, and then you took me off the jet, and now you put me in here, and now you're taking me off to go Cerebro again. Like, what the fuck? Like, that's totally the vibe he gives.
Yeah, that's the running joke with him so far in this episode and the next, and I think that's the part. I'm not saying it's bad. Me personally, and maybe it's because I'm older now, like, I don't like that being done to characters, because like I don't particularly love seeing suffering anymore.
It's
like,
just anxiety. Yeah.
Yeah, like suffering for comic relief is like leave the poor boy alone. Like, because like no one's even like grateful for it. They're just ordering him around.
Yeah. Are you done with this shit? No? Don't care. Get on this other stuff.
Yeah.
So, like, Forge is just that guy that has the never-ending checklist of, like, oh, I gotta go do this. Now I gotta go do this. So, and then, like, she has such a good introduction. I don't know if I love her voice actor yet. Like, I'm still getting used to this version of her. But, like, the attitude is spot on for Emma, where, you know, she's starting to get the intro to Forge as she's walking into Cerebro. She's like, we could just forget about pleasantries. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, and she's reading his mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Not only is she being rude, but she's literally getting all the ways to make this thing work before she's even sat down in the chair.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's when he was like, so here's how you work. And she's like, I read your mind, you idiot.
Yeah.
And she puts the helmet on.
So they sit her down, and she sees the Citadel in Genosha. And of all the things, it's like probably the most obvious. I actually wouldn't have thought that Xavier was on Genosha. Like, it seems like too obvious an answer for me, you know?
Gotcha. Yeah. Maybe that's the answer. The reason they didn't look there before, or I get what you mean though. It's like, yeah, why would you put him like right next to Magneto? Yeah.
So when she said that, I was like, okay, let's see how they're gonna play this, because obviously, like, you have the same reaction as Wolverine of, well, we have to go save him, and Magneto's holding him hostage, you know? Beast is trying to be the voice of reason, where it's, you know, we don't know that he actually did anything wrong. Maybe we should just, like, reach out and make contact with him, and then Wolverine's, like, going alpha male because he's like, oh, I'm going to touch him, and out of context, that's really awkward.
Yeah.
And then he goes, and I think you got a little bit of your answer of, like, Scott's thing was a hotel.
Oh,
it was
okay.
It specifically, the shot showed that it was a hotel, right. And apparently they've not kicked him out of that room because the TV is still embedded in the wall, but they patched up the corner room that he had.
I love the TV being embedded in the wall, being like that. When did this come out? 2009. So it's still like we were right on the cusp of that transition to HD TV, flat screen TVs, right? So it is funny to think of like a CRT TV like being in
pressed against it. Yeah. Yep. And Scott does what you think Scott would do, where he hears that Xavier's still around or somewhere, and he's like, what about Jean? And Wolverine has to be like, I don't know. I'm genuinely curious with this version of them. Like, did Wolverine make a move on Jean in this version? Because there's an awkwardness there, but also, like, we're not getting, like, sad, longing Wolverine. Like, it doesn't seem like he's pining over Jean the way Scott is, you know?
Yeah, I didn't get that at all. That there was any, like, three-way happening here, or a love triangle
Except for
happening here.
when she blew the like kiss to him in the first
That's
episode.
right. I forgot about that. Yeah, he just never reacted to that afterwards. Huh. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because like so much of X-Men lore is him being sad about Jean, you know, and Cyclops being sad about Jean. Lots of people are fucking sad about Jean, but in this one, it's like one-sided. Everyone's sad about Jean.
No, the Cyclops is waiting for me.
Of course. Yep. Then we jump back to the hangar, and it's not a one-to-one shot, but the five of them walking into the hangar really closely resembles that end of Astonishing X-Men from Joss Whedon.
Okay.
I can't remember if it was the end of the first issue or the end of the first arc, so forgive me on that one. But it was a 5-mutant team walking in there, and on the team, you actually had Beast, Wolverine, Cyclops, Emma, Kitty as the last one. This one, they just kind of swapped it, had Iceman do the walk-in, and then Emma's the reveal after the fact.
Yeah. I thought it was also interesting that Cyclops was like a trench coat Cyclops.
Yes.
Wasn't expect. I mean, I knew he was in the intro, but wasn't expecting that to be like his default.
Yeah, I saw some commentary that was basically like, oh, it's, showing like the, like how the character's trying to be like dark and brooding and stuff like that, which, yeah, I guess that makes sense. I'm sending to you right now, Rod, the image from that comic.
I think I might be familiar with this.
It's
I was going to ask you if it was the Dutch angle one, and
Yep. It's the one that, for anybody listening that isn't seeing it, it's when Scott says we have to astonish them. That's the panel I'm referring to, which I believe is also the cover image of the motion comic that came out a couple years ago too.
And Beast looks like a cat.
Yeah, that was his secondary mutation era, which luckily has all been undone because Beast went evil and killed a lot of people, and then he died, and it got complicated. He's alive again, though, so, because,
everybody's
X-Men.
alive again.
But then we also get the first interaction between Cyclops and Emma, which I think we've talked about this in the comics, especially. There has been that love triangle between Scott, Emma, and Jean also being an issue there. So I'm curious, and again, if you're listening to us for the first time, we are watching this for the first time, so do not spoil stuff. I wonder if this is going to lead to some sort of like relationship, and then Jean comes back later and awkward Cyclops happens.
They did specifically like show him kind of giving an eye to Emma walking in. He likes those women that can read
he can't
minds.
give multiple eyes because he has a visor on.
Right. Yeah, but he likes those women that can read minds.
I think in the comics he also like tried banging Psylocke. Like,
there you go.
Yeah. He's definitely been with at least 3 psychics, I want to say.
You wonder too if
actually 4 if you count Madeline, because she's not the same as Jean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like how they say like for straight guys, like they'll go after their mother or whatever, but in this sense he's kind of going after his father because Xavier kind of raised him.
See, I was not expecting you to take that thought process, but it's also really hard to argue.
Right. He just likes people that are in his head.
Yep. Emma notices Cyclops being there and is like, oh, Wolverine must be really desperate, so she knows what's going on with that relationship. And then Wolverine basically tells Scott that she's temporary. So I love the dynamics of it, because it doesn't feel like the high school drama part that we talked about for Evolution. It feels like these are like just a bunch of people who have dealt with trauma. Like, that's the difference of it, which is way too appropriate right now.
And there's January. There's a lot of, I like the reveals of Wolverine's thoughts about Emma through Emma's mind reading. I think it's interesting. Because like she alludes to like Wolverine kind of like wanting to kill her after they're done with her purpose on the mission.
Yeah. They go into the jet, and there's the shots of Beast and Forge working together to fix this thing as they're making their way to Genosha. Bobby is having some like weird haywire with his powers where he's like freezing up as he's sleeping.
Yeah, I didn't know what that was about. I wasn't familiar with that.
later when he's going through the halls of the Magneto Citadel, like he's also freezing the walls as he's walking by. So I'm curious if they're going to take like, oh, Bobby's powers are unstable. Like he's doing things out of his control, you know?
Yeah, it's a subconscious thing.
Mm-hmm. And then Emma has a great interaction with Scott where it's like, yeah, you want to ask me about her, so go for it kind of scenario. And it's great because she could just answer him.
Yeah.
She knows what exactly he wants to ask. And she's like, I'm going to make you say it. Because that's that Emma like power play that she does.
In front of everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that's where the moment happens where she's like, oh, I could help you if I'm still around after this is all done because Wolverine doesn't want me here.
Yeah.
So.
I think Cyclops.
See, I didn't get a full like kill her vibe, but it was like as soon as we get Chuck, we're booting her off the team.
Gotcha. I like that Cyclops asked specifically like if Jean was in the Citadel,
right?
Would you be able to find her? She's like, yeah. He's like, but if I get Cerebro one more time, then I will be able to find her if she's conscious or alive or whatever. Yeah.
So they get close to the island. There's a big like thing of fog around it, and then it's well we're gonna be as obvious as a big black jet coming out of a fog cloud. Like it was the most unsubtle metaphor, quote unquote, ever. But it was just like the delivery was perfect. I really dig this version of Beast.
Yeah, he's funny. I do like that they were like, come on, we got to get the stealth working before we come out of the fog. I was like, is the plane's stopping mechanism also broken? No. You can just like not go as fast through the fog.
Yeah, you could just chill in the fog. So they land. They do that whole thing where it's like you don't see the plane, but you see the plane. And then Kitty just like pops out and goes into reconnaissance mode. Then they don't show it, but they give the impression that Wolverine cut a hole in the floor and Bobby made an ice slide for them.
I was wondering what that was about. Because it only showed the after thing where he like I thought he was like closing a door or something. But yeah, it was weird.
No, it's because Bobby was at there at the bottom. There was the ice slide, but like it's like, oh, did Wolverine just like do his like X through the floor kind of scenario?
They didn't have the budget for it.
Nope. They decided to split up, and they actually showed the ear comms on people. They didn't just do the like we're touching our ear. Yeah. You actually saw they had the little like Bluetooth ear nubbin coming out.
Or the in '92 with it was like the chest piece. Like Storm and Cyclops and stuff.
Mm-hmm. And maybe Jean, but I don't think everybody had it.
Yeah, it like you said, it was probably just like an ear bud or something. They were just assuming everybody had.
Well, like Avengers, you never see a single person put a thing in their ear in the Avengers movie, but they all start doing this like they're Captain America. So
right. You see Hawkeye later on do that. That's not a earpiece. That's a different kind of earpiece.
It is an earpiece. Yeah. So they start splitting up, going through the maze. Scott is just shooting doors open. Bobby is walking by, freezing stuff. Emma is like telepathically trying to search through stuff. And then you get just Wolverine gets sucked through metal walls.
That was pretty badass. Yeah, because he goes into a room, doesn't see anybody. And then as he's closing the door. So like, is this Magneto able to like separate molecules?
Yeah.
Oh,
he's like essentially turning solid steel into like a liquid.
Yeah.
And pulling Logan through. And then they got closer than what I would have been expecting for like the danger of Wolverine, like literally pressing him where his like cheek is getting touched by the spike wall and stuff like that. I thought that was like a really great visual.
I was wondering if they were going to do the pull the animanium out of his bones. That's insane.
The only reason I didn't think they would do that just yet is I feel like you have to build to that moment. Like doing that in like episode 3 of the show would have just been like, damn, you guys are jumping the shark real quick here.
Like how X-Men 97 took away Storm's powers in episode 3.
Episode 2, Rod.
Is it 2? Oh my god, it was 2, yeah. Yep. Okay. But I didn't even think that they would like do the whole thing, but I wonder if they were going to tease it. Like put him in some pain or something, or like take one, I don't know, something. But they do a lot of close calls in this sequence.
Yeah. My first impression of the Magneto voice actor is he was absolutely inspired by Ian McKellen.
I thought it was Ian McKellen. I had to look it up.
Yeah, it was not, but
Yeah.
like I totally got Ian McKellen vibes.
Yeah,
off
totally,
of him.
100%.
Yep. You get a little back and forth between them. Wolverine accuses Magneto of what happened to Xavier in abducting him. Magneto is understandably insulted because he didn't actually do it.
Yeah. He's
Yep.
like, it would have been much more eloquent.
Cyclops comes in. There's a quick fight. Bobby makes an ice boomerang that actually splits Magneto's helmet in half.
But so, because of what happens later, it leaves the impression that that's how it goes on, right? The two pieces.
Because it's split so perfectly.
It splits perfectly. Yeah, and it's like maybe the bottom is too small to go over his head. You know, because that was the thing. Was it one of the Ian McKellen X-Men's that like it curves in a little bit or something? So it's like it doesn't quite make sense. Because
that one doesn't look comfortable. The one he originally had did not look comfortable in the movies. I fully agree with you there.
Because like in the cartoons, he had like the U-shape one that the bottom was completely flat. You just like drop in. Yeah, but this
Rod, do a zoom out during the edit.
But this one they look more stylized. So like it splitting in half kind of made more sense to go around his head. Yeah, but I thought it was interesting that Bobby of all the people is the one that got the hit in.
Yeah, same. Emma goes for a telepathic attack, and then Wolverine gets used as a weapon, and God, it's like such a cool shot of Beast and Emma on each side of him, and his arms are positioned up in the like, if I pop these claws, they're both gonna die right now. There's nothing that Beast could do. Obviously, we know Emma has a shot of surviving based on the power we see in the next episode, but Beast is done. He is totally like, skewered at that point.
Yeah,
so.
and they show the like what inch or so coming out of it, just like teasing it. It's wild.
Yep. And then in just that total, the modern version of Magneto, which granted is probably 2/3 of his existence right now compared to his debut size, it's like, well, all you had to do was ask if you wanted to see Xavier.
I was kind of surprised that Beast wasn't like, and
yeah. Like as they get let down and they're walking in the direction of it, I really wish Beast like just low key, you saw him like slap his shoulder or something like that. Like, what the fuck, man? So they all get released, and you get the backstory that he appeared just a week ago on the shores with no explanation.
Another reason I love this show. So it's like one mystery just leads to another.
Emma's there, and then she says I don't know if this necessarily works, but he has no brain activity. Like, that means he's literally a vegetable at that point, right?
Yeah,
like, because you can have brain activity in a coma, but no brain activity insinuates vegetable, right?
That's what I assume. Maybe it's just her being catty.
I feel like she wouldn't be catty about
at that
this
moment.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when she wants to be brought up part of the team,
That's
you know?
Right, yeah, but also, like, I wonder, just based on what we see later on, maybe they mean coma in some, like, superhuman sort of way or something, like the end of 92. I don't know how that works.
I don't know. Well, that was him literally dying, so, but yeah, Magneto's basically just been, like, doing his best to care for him. Wolverine's, I think he's still ready for a fight. He's like, well, are you going to let us take him home? And he's like, yeah, sure. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah, go for it.
He literally says you're his kids, Yeah. He does give a quick offer to Logan, though, to make Genosha the home for the X-Men, though.
Yeah, don't fall for it.
Bad shit happens every time on that island, And he says, the offer always stands, but next time use the front door.
Yeah.
Which, again, I just want that one little petty Beast moment.
Yeah.
That's all I want.
I hope it's coming later. I hope they like invade Magneto again, and they're also wrong. And Beast is like, okay, guys, ground rules.
You get the jet taking off as Magneto watches, which had a little bit of that vibe from the finale of the first season of X-Men, where he's just like watching as the jet leaves kind of scenario.
Yeah.
Obviously very different circumstances, but it's kind of just like he feels bad about his buddy, you know?
Yeah.
That's really, he's thinking about Charles the whole time. So Xavier's in bed and they're all kind of like reacting to what's happening, and then the whisper started.
Yeah.
And I immediately rewound the episode and threw on captions.
Yeah.
And then it just said indistinct whispering. I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah. They waited a while to reveal what he's saying. It is really hard to hear until the captions. When the captions say what he's saying is when you can actually audibly hear
When
it.
you can understand it, yeah. So, a face appears above the bed. And one thing that, like, felt weird, and it makes sense when in hindsight when you find out the rest of the scenario, it felt like a computer model or like a computerized projection, because it was like slightly pixelating, which wouldn't have made sense if it was an astral projection coming from him as he was sitting right there, you know?
Yeah, I actually put a note that it was a like Zordon version of Xavier. We find out that it's because he's using Cerebro, and that's why it's
In
like,
the future.
Yeah.
Yep. Also, I do love that we are watching it 20 years later, and Xavier just woke up 20 years later. So 1 year ago in the narrative, the world has been destroyed. So
Yeah.
we survived a year longer than Xavier thought we were going to, basically.
Yeah. And I'm not familiar with an Xavier or a Cerebro that can time travel, kind of. So this is an interesting, like, kind of thing.
The stuff with Days of Future Past movie.
Kind of thing.
Well, the movie specifically, like hit on that, because it's like, you know, using Kitty, they send Wolverine back to the past in that one. So yeah,
this one was interesting because it was tethered to the body, but not through the body.
it was it felt like coincidental timing that's when they got the body back, but it shouldn't have had an effect on what happened. Like, unless
later,
you're talking about like time ripples, you know.
Yeah, but then later, like, his like manifestation is tied to the location of his body. So it's just like, okay, so I guess you have to be in the vicinity of it, but you're not going through your body like Days of Future Past.
Or like I'm saying, like, it's a ripple effect of something had happened that Wolverine had not gotten the body back. So by him getting the body back, that is what triggered him to wake up in the future kind of scenario.
Oh, and then he was probably there, that location.
Right. Like if the divergence happens, gets the body back, doesn't get the body back, and if he never gets the body back, then he stays on Genosha and then never
dies or something.
Yeah, never wakes up or something like that.
Yeah.
So maybe Genosha gets destroyed by a wild sentinel. Who knows? And then you get everybody in this, you know, they see the future. And it's very Days of Future Past vibes with everything that's going on and things like that. Sentinels in the air. Did you notice there was a slight design difference with the Sentinel from the intro versus the future version?
Yeah, I don't like the Sentinels we saw in this episode. That's just personal preference, the design thing.
They had like pupils in their eyes, it looked like.
I didn't notice
and that tripped me out.
For me, it was more the like the head shape. It didn't look like as much of like a helmet.
Yep. But yeah, it's basically like when the X-Men broke up, it led to a bunch of stuff that goes wrong, and the only way is getting basically the entire team back together, and Logan needs to be the leader, and that was the most Cyclops is waiting for me moment, shy of Jean kissing Logan possible. Like, it's just like sad Cyclops instantly.
Yeah. I do like the Cyclops kind of being sidelined in this little bit. It's so funny.
Well, he just like walks out of the room and it's like, no, don't leave, you know, kind of scenario. It's like, that sucks. And they use Xavier like to be the kind of like the conduit for each of the episodes. Like it now feels like it's not necessarily monster of the week, but it's like mission of the week.
Yeah.
Because he's like, here's a thing that happens. You need to fix this. And it's almost like getting like missions in a video game kind of scenario. Like he's the NPC at the control center. Like even to your comparison, he's very much like a Zordon vibe.
Yeah, this would have been a great video game setup.
You see Xavier in the future getting out of Cerebro as it's collapsing, and he has devices on his legs that he's able to run. Weirdly enough, there's a comic I've been reading. It's an independent book called Tin Can Society.
Okay.
And the premise of it starts with like this genius inventor kid who makes like leg pieces that help him walk, even though he has, I think it's palsy is why he's not able to walk without crutches. And he becomes a superhero by using something similar to what Xavier is wearing, basically.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. Also does a bunch of other shit, but
like War Machine in the MCU movies.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Xavier is, running through, and you see all of the tombstones. I don't know if you paid attention to the names on it, but you saw basically everybody who's been in the episode. Rogue is with the X-Men, so that leads me to believe something happens that brings her back, which is not an unexpected thing. But also, Colossus is buried there, but Emma is not.
Oh, jeez.
Yep.
There's no years on anything either.
Yep. And then I don't know what the absolute last line of my note says, where it says something X-Men. I'm assuming it's something like him mentioning the X-Men, or like kind of like a, sending them good vibes, but I do not remember what the last line of the episode was.
Yeah, I think it was Wolverine kind of gives a pep talk to everybody, because everyone has for the most part, most of the team members have their reasons to not like someone else on the team. I think everyone hates somebody else on the team. So he says, like, we all have to get past it and, like, rise together as a team, the X-Men. And I think that was the consensus of it.
Oh, it's like basically like we have to bring back the X-Men. Because he said that at the end of the other episode, too, so...
Yeah. So and he might be speaking more for himself and Emma than more than anybody. At this point, still, like, he doesn't like her. We're not quite sure if she
doesn't like anybody.
Yeah.
Like there are relationships that develop in the comic books, like we said, her with Cyclops, or her and Kitty get kind of like this frenemy vibe where they like support each other, but like they're also at each other's throats at times too. Yeah. So yeah, there's a really cool dynamic. I want to see more of like Sugar Daddy Warren, because him at the beginning was hilarious. Where he's like, "Why are you sad? You shouldn't be sad right now."
Yeah, money fixes everything for me. Why can't it fix it for you?
Yeah,
Sugar Daddy Warren.
Sugar Daddy Warren.
Love it. I like Emma a lot in this. She's a fun little pill in the middle of this whole team. I think because she's only helped, but annoyingly.
I want her to be slightly more British, but everything else be the same. Like just be like 5% more Posh Spice, basically.
I can see that. Yeah. That's funny.
No.
But otherwise, I love this, man. Like I know I didn't watch it in real time because this was like while I was in the middle of like trying to figure out my career after college and stuff. But I also probably didn't watch it because I was like, oh god, another Wolverine thing. And it is Wolverine centric, but so much more. It's so well written. There's some goofy moments that you could tell when they wrote it meant to be more like whenever someone gives each other a knowing glance, it's a very like animated thing, but like the story, you can tell, like, if there were, like, physical actors there, it would have been, like, it's like, a great story set up, and I dig that.
I mean, shy of, like, Forge being the goofy comic relief as your cat does the big stretch.
I was going to say, I think she's signaling us to wrap it up.
Yeah. It all would have translated well to being, like, a live-action series kind of scenario, I feel like.
Yeah, and, like I said, Lin-Manuel Miranda could have been that goofy Forge. So.
But yeah, like, to be honest, any of the stuff that we mentioned during the course of the episode was the trivia on it. Man, you could tell like what shows have a more hardcore fandom than others, because Wolverine and the X-Men has 2 fan wikis that post about it. The IMDb for this episode had 0 trivia. I've never seen an
interesting.
episode that had 0 things listed as trivia on IMDb for any other episode we've done of this entire run of our podcast.
Interesting. That makes me wonder how the episodes in the future are going to go then. Like, if they're pretty, like you said, it kind of ends up being kind of a monster of the week thing or mission of the week thing as for what we watched so far. So you got to wonder if, like, does that get too repetitive and that's why, or I don't
Right. One thing I will close out before we do the sign off that I do want to share. There was a post online that was, what do you think is more popular? And it's X-Men, the animated series, or X-Men Evolution. Obviously, like, for us, it's X-Men 92, the animated series. And there was like 1 or 2 people that were like, no way, you guys are crazy. So what I did is I literally went to Google Trends, which, have you ever gone to the Google Trends page?
Oh, yeah.
And you do the search comparison results?
Yeah.
For about 4 years, Evolution was higher ranked in search results than the animated series. And then right around the time of 2008, it swapped and never got taken back over on it.
That kind of makes sense, though, because Evolution came out when the internet was really popping off.
When the internet was there. Like, there was no, like, publicly available internet. Like, nobody was on America Online until, late 96, 97?
Yeah, to the end. But I mean, like 2001, when like Evolution was happening, like I was in college, we had Wi-Fi for the first time, carrying around laptops and stuff. So like AOL Instant Messenger, everyone was chronically online, So
yeah, remember when our laptops, you needed to plug in a wireless modem into it? You couldn't it wasn't the built-in ones. So
I mentioned this before. The college I went to, Greenville University, we were the first all wireless campus. And so our laptops, some people had the plug-in ones, but our laptops, they were built in because of that functionality. So like we were kind of like spoiled from the beginning. So you could always tell someone who didn't get a university-issued laptop because they had the card, the PCMCIA card stuck under the big antenna sticking out the side.
I never had the one that had the antenna coming out of it, but it was always like the extra piece, and like you had like a little case, so you threw it in your computer bag, and then it wouldn't like get snapped in the bag because those things were fucking made of glass, basically. So, and then one last thing I will also share. About a week and a half, 2 weeks ago from time of recording, they finally reissued in the Fortnite store X-23.
Oh, nice.
And then the 3-pack that was Domino, Cable, and Psylocke.
Nice.
So now I have all of those skins for my X-Men collection of skins on Fortnite. I think the only ones I don't have are the ones that were like, you had to play the season that they came out, and I just wasn't into Fortnite when like Mystique and Storm were the skins. So
have them for now until the government shuts off that app too.
That's owned by Disney, so that'll happen soon. Thank you all for joining us. If you have any thoughts, make sure to drop them into the comments for either the YouTube upload or the official Instagram post about this episode, or throw it into the comments on Spotify, because I keep forgetting that that's a thing. And if you like what you heard, we'd appreciate a rating on the podcast app of your choosing. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify, YouTube Podcasts, and Castbox. Your cat is over our bullshit right now, Rod.
Yep. He wants to see more cleavage.